I want to move on to the last course. Now this last course has come from our experience over the last year with the other courses. And what this was is that, remember, this was primarily supposed to be a postgraduate institute, right? Which means that you would have studied your alim or alima course, and now you're going to come and further yourself in one of these areas. So if you felt a bit weak in jurisprudence, you'll do that. Theology, you'll do that. Right? And you'll do more. I mean, you weren't expected to know all of these theology things in a madrasa. A madrasa can never cover all of these things. They can cover some of these things, right? But they can't cover all of these things. That's just impossible. Right? What we discovered is that we've had a number of students, a few, who were unable to get a grasp of the text. Because, mashallah, we had some students who'd studied and graduated maybe 10 years ago, right? 8 years ago, maybe even more, right? Because we don't know all of them when they graduated. But they've become very rusty, right? So, Arabic, the Lubab, for example, the usul al-fiqh book, it was quite a challenge. Because when you've been, especially a language, when you've neglected a language for a while, you're going to become rusty in a language. I mean, a lot of people have done Spanish at school or French at school, and you tell them to speak French right now, and they probably can't, right? Even if they got an A in their GCSEs, for that matter. So the same thing happens if you don't use a language, then you're going to lose it. So we found that these students were finding it really tough to understand the language of the book. And some of them may have been more recent graduates, but maybe weren't able to work hard enough, or whatever the case was. So now we've launched another course, which is called the Sibawayh course. Now, Sibawayh is obviously the famous Nahwi, the grammarian, right? So don't get put off by the name, it's just a nice name. But really what it is, it's an Arabic refresher course. What we mean is, we're not going to take you back to Nahwu Mir or Mu'allim al-Sarf and get you to memorize all the gardans, right? That's not the idea of the course, right? The idea is that it's going to start off with a kind of an overview of the main rules of Nahwu and Sarf, which you need on a practical level to deal with texts, right? So think that's sabak stuff, right? We only want to do that for a few weeks at the beginning just to get people into it, and those who know that very well, they can proceed on to the text. Then we're going to start with a series of texts. This is only about 6 to 7 hours a week. Most likely it's going to be on a Saturday or a Sunday. We're still trying to decide because there's different people who want to do it at different times. I don't think we're going to be able to do this in the weekdays anymore because we don't have space here. We've got several courses running at the same time, so we're not going to have space. Most likely this is going to be a weekend course, right? So either a Saturday morning to early afternoon or Sunday morning to early afternoon. The idea of this is that you'll get your overview of Nahw and Sarf. Then we're going to put you onto the text, starting with things like Nafhatul Arab and going on to Mukhtarat and other texts. We'll take selections of fiqh texts, usul texts, hadith texts eventually, so that you build up slowly. A lot of the work you're going to have to do in terms of really you're going to be given work, to work out for the whole week, use a dictionary, told how to use a dictionary, a lexicon. And I've been compiling, because I've been teaching for the last 2 years, last several years, but I've been compiling a list of what I think are the most common pitfalls in translating from Arabic into English. The reason is that Arabic is a totally different language. Forget the fact that it's written right to left and English is written left to right. That's a minimal problem. The bigger problem is the idioms. And people will know that the min bayaniya doesn't exist in English. And so many people get lost in min bayaniya. But that's just the simplest issue, right? There are people who still translate the waw isti'nafiyya. In English, there is no waw isti'nafiyya. You don't have to start every sentence with a and, right? But yet, when a lot of people are translating, they're so literal, right? That every time it's wa anna Allah wa this wa that, that's supposed to be a silent waw, really. Because in English, it doesn't make sense at all to keep saying and. Your English teacher would probably cross that off. Why do you keep saying and for? At the beginning of a fresh sentence. The waw in Arabic is just to show you that this is a new sentence. You don't have to translate it. Every time they come to a fa, they say so. And it doesn't work in English because sometimes the fa is used to represent something else. I don't want to bore you with all of the details, but I think after, testing a number of students and listening to them, I think I figured out where a lot of the pitfalls are. So what we're trying to do is to get them to do a very refined translation. The reason is that in Arabic, if you've got the word kharraja and kharaja and istakhraja and akhraja, it's all about either exiting or taking someone out or evicting someone or wanting somebody to be evicted. But if it says istakhraja, then it means to want somebody to come out. And a lot of students don't appreciate the khawasul abwab, right, which are the special characteristics of the particular verb form. There's a reason why the author is going to say takharraja as opposed to kharaja, because takharraja, he's trying to come out. There's a pretense aspect there, or there's an effort, because bab tafa'ul is to show takalluf. And I think this is where a lot of students, what they do is they see it's kharaja, it means going out, so they just do a rough translation related to going out and they get by. And that's not right. Arabic is such a refined text that you almost feel like these people are doing a crime by not understanding the nuance of that particular aspect. So I think I've got about 10 to 15 particular pitfalls which inshallah we're going to try to go through and get people to master so that they avoid these things. And then inshallah you'll see that it'll be smooth sailing, right? We're going to try to get you to think in Arabic, because what's happening is that if you've studied in Urdu, then you will translate, you'll read the Arabic, people read ibarat, they read the text, they don't understand what they're reading. They read it first and hope they get it right. And if the Arabs are written there, then they'll probably get it right. And if it's written wrong there, they'll get it wrong. Then what they'll do is they'll try to then translate it into Urdu in their mind. Then from Urdu, they'll try to translate it into English. And I've seen students who have not studied Urdu, they've studied directly in English. They're just still reading the text first as though it's some kind of empty text. Then they're trying to make a sense of it. What we're trying to do through this course is to get you to read the text and think in Arabic, right? So as soon as you read it, you know what it's talking about. And you know if you don't know the meaning of something, so you'll go and check it up before you actually move on to the next part. Or you'll understand it from the context. So I think this is to empower a person to really get the Arabic, really understand it. Because without that, you're going to struggle in your hadith, you're going to struggle in your aqida books, you're going to struggle in all of it. There are just some common themes, right? For example, in Nurul Idha, right, there's a term I remember from when we read it in our first year, right? وَيَصِيرُ الْمَاءُ مُسْتَعْمَلًا بِمُجَرَّدِ إِنْفِصَالِهِ عَنِ الْجَسَدِ. This mujarrad word, I mean, if you look in the dictionary, it's like denuded, unclothed. What's that got to do with this here? But the word mujarrad means just merely, purely, from just. So that's an idiom of the Arabic language. And that's why I try to explain to people. We're just trying to convey the Arabic idioms. So for example, in English we say, have you tried it out? A person who's learning English afresh, he's going to look at tried it out. Okay, try means to attempt. Tried it out. Like get out. Exit. How does that make any sense? They're going to stumble over out. The reason why we have no problem with this is because this is how we think. So the idioms are part of our normal understanding of language, right? Because we've mastered. And when you can't do that to Arabic the way they speak, for example, أعجبك هذا? I remember when I was in Syria, in English we say, do you like this? Do you like this? Whereas in Arabic, they say, does that fascinate you? Right? Well, you could say, هل تحب ذلك? But generally they say, هل أعجبك? Right? Has that fascinated you? Like, do you like it? Right? As though that thing is doing all the work. Right? So that's just ways of understanding Arabic. And believe me, if you just understand these small issues, you'll be able to master the Arabic language. So that's what we're trying to focus on in this course. Inshallah, it's only about 6 hours a week, right? But inshallah, that will give you that confidence, and I hope, inshallah. So that's basically called a Sibawayh program, because inshallah after that, in a forthcoming year, we then intend, for those who really enjoy their Arabic, we intend to do an advanced selections of Arabic texts. So for example, we're going to deal with the Maqamat al-Hariri, the Sab' al-Mu'allaqat, Diwan Hamasa, Diwan al-Mutanabbi, and Maqamat Hariri, and Mukhtarat, right? And really appreciate the literature, and really understand the Arabic and the nuances and why a certain word has been used in a particular place. For a jurist, that is so important, because the jurist, the faqih who's writing, the reason he's used and chosen a certain word has a number of benefits. That's why he's chosen that word and not something else. Because most of our books, they've been refined over the centuries. These are not like first drafts that have been written arbitrarily. They've actually been written and then probably refined so much that that's why you hardly see a mistake in them these days, right? And then they've been commented on and so on and so forth. So anyway, I hope that gives you an understanding of what we're trying to achieve by this, but this will be very useful for those people who feel weak but want to work hard in trying to develop their Arabic language, because without a solid foundation in Arabic language, you'll struggle with all of the sources that are in Arabic.